Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Today's topic is what I call motherhood and apple pie, and that is what is a mother. And I actually left my computer on my desk, but I'm not going to get it because it's a little bit late. I created an online poll on what's called polleverything.com, and I asked, when I gave this share earlier, I asked people to take a vote over what they think the definition of a mother is. What does it mean to be a mother? So I will tell you the choices that were online. The choice was A, the mother is the egg. That whoever contributes the egg, that's the mother. If it's Mrs. X's egg, she's the mother. Other opinion would be B. No. It's not the egg. It's whoever delivers the baby. It's the birth mother is the mother. The third option is whoever makes chicken soup. The fourth option is all of the above, meaning the birth and the egg. The other option is no. Either or. If you're the egg mother, you're the mother. If you're the birth mother, you're the other one. So both, either, one, it's exclusive, or it's all about chicken soup. So those were the options that I asked people to vote on, and I have all the survey results online. So, but I forgot my. I can tell you what to do now, but I'm not going to. So, anyone want to tell me what you'd vote? What would you say and why? What's the mother? Yeah.
I'd probably say the one who makes the chicken soup, the one who ultimately raises the child.
Okay, maybe it's the one who raises the child. That's the mother. Has nothing to do with the egg, nothing to do with birth.
It has to do, but I think it more so.
More so it does with the nurturing, the nature, right? The nurturing of the child is the mother. Okay. Anyone else?
I think I agree.
I say it's the egg.
You say it's the egg?
Yeah.
Whoever it's the
DNA.
That's your DNA. That's your DNA. That's your imprint on the child. Okay, it comes from the egg. Whoever contributes the egg.
For the egg, you wouldn't be here. So.
Right. Okay. Good.
I'd say the one who raises them, because like if you're talking about adoption, like they're still their parent. Like they're the one that's
right. And what about their biological parents? Not their parents anymore.
No.
Well, it depends. If they're still talking to them, then it could be both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that's just kind of.
That's cool. You have two mothers.
That's more like your ancestor and like your biology, but that's not like the person who like gave you life, the person who rely on, the person who like could do everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else? What did you say, Tom?
I agree with it's the one who raises them.
Okay, raises them?
I think that if like they're adopted, then like it doesn't matter who scientifically was their parent, because like that's irrelevant to who's raising them.
Okay. So what would be the ramifications? Let's just talk about this for a second. Why does it matter who your mother is? Why does it matter?
If you adopt them for someone and use their Hebrew name, you have to know.
Okay, you're this person is sick. So who's your mother? You are, Chaim Ben. Who's your mother? Your adopted mother, biological mother, your egg. Good, excellent. What else? That's like the least problem of all the issues, right? Yeah. Who else?
Who you have responsibility of like kibbut avim.
Very good. Kibbut avim. Who am I supposed to keep avim for? My biological mother, who am I supposed to respect, is my mother, right? I'm obligated to have a greater level of respect to my mother than a stranger who's a female. So is this a stranger's a female? Good, excellent question.
Don't say that, like, even if your parents is like terrible to you, you're still required to respect them because they brought you into the world.
So that would be so is that the egg or is that the birth?
So it seems like the essence is like who.
Maybe it's the essence brought you into this world. Very good, right? So who brought you into this world is your biological mother, not your adopted mother.
Inheritance.
For inheritance, okay, so mothers don't really with inheritance, so more complicated than that, but yeah, okay.
Okay, but like you still love your like right now you still love your parents regardless. Like you know they're your parent in every way. But if 20 years from now you found out that like there was a mix up at the hospital or whatever, and they're not actually your mother, you're still gonna love the woman who raised you because you think it's your mother. You still have that emotional attachment.
So I agree with the emotional part. You could also love like your neighbor.
Not the same way.
I mean, you could, right? So, I guess a lot of it has to do with, welcome. I guess a lot of it has to do with, I don't have any more milk sheets. I apologize.
Okay, I can't read it.
No. So, I think one of the other challenges we got to kind of figure out is, not only is it an issue of who your mother is, but what about, and God forbid, a parent should pass away? So, do you say Shiva for them? Do you have a Velut for them?
Do people sit Shiva for adopted parents?
Okay, do people sit Shiva for parents? So the truth is, because I got into this topic, I now have to complete it in its entirety, which is that next semester we're going to have to start with adopting a child. There's many challenges with adopting a child. I think it's worthwhile talking about it. It's somewhat connected and actually will lead into another cool topic. So we'll deal with adopted parents after. I think it's a very cool topic. So that would be, maybe we'll start next semester. So hold on to that for now. So again, what we try to understand is from a biological, from the Torah view, the difference is make a distinction between the birth mother or the mother who contributed an egg. Now, I'll be very honest with you. They couldn't conceive, literally, right? They couldn't comprehend the idea that you could actually split the two, right? Like, you couldn't expect Chazal, the rabbis, to say, "Oh yeah, what do you mean? They're two different people." Like that was like science fiction. That was like,
Carrier and the egg.
yeah, meaning how could it not be the same person who contributes the egg, who carries the baby and delivers the baby, right? Like that's the way it was for thousands of years. It's only in the modern time we have this like crazy science fiction scenario of something different that can happen. So what's going to make this topic very challenging is that to find real sources is not going to be so easy. But we're going to do our best. I want to just explain a couple things. A few decades ago, there's a number of ways to deal with infertility. One method is called IVF. IVF is like quote-unquote old-fashioned, where you take the woman's egg, you take the husband's sperm, you kind of go to a petri dish. Once the egg actually becomes fertilized, then you put it back into the mother, into this lady, who then gives birth to her child from all components to it. Meaning it was her husband's sperm, it was her egg, she gives birth. That's called IVF. That's been around now for a while. So why is it some couples need that? For whatever reason, they couldn't get the process started on its own. They can do that scientifically, and then the rest can happen. There's a newer method now which is taking place, which is called having a surrogate mother. Now, there's two forms that this can manifest itself. Form number one is more, I guess, classic, and that is the mother. We don't use her egg at all. We go to, Mrs. X or Ms. X, right? We use her egg. We use the husband's sperm. There's becomes fertilized. They then, as a fertilized egg, put it back into the mother, into the wife. It's not her egg, but it's her husband's sperm, donated egg. She then gives birth to this child 9 months later. She goes through pregnancy. Now, she shares no DNA with this child. I don't know if you're in biology. Any biology people here? No biology people here at all? Anyways, so that is how it works. Now, what's fascinating about this is we have another challenge which we have yet to discuss.
Who's the mother?
Who's the mother? Now, why does it matter? So the question is, does this child need to convert? Because, let's say, for example, we don't know who donated the egg. It came from a bank. It's Mrs. X. Most people in this world are not Jewish. So, Mrs. X contributed the egg. But the birthing mother, let's say, was a Jew. So is this child a Jew or not? Does this child need conversion? This could have also ramifications. What about if it's a male that's born? And this father is a Kohen. Is this child a Kohen? It was his sperm, it was his wife, but this child a Kohen, right? So, and what about if there's another child who's born? Let's say in the normal, natural way. So they're half brothers, right? So there's a whole issue with Yerusha, with inheritance. What about if one's a male, one's a female? Can they marry each other? That would be an easy one because even you can't marry your half brother or your half sister. That's an easy one. Right? So there's potentially, this whole converting thing, and a female who converts, a Gioret, cannot marry a Kohen. So If there's a Gioret, can a Gioret marry a Kohen or not? So these are very serious questions. Someone who converts to Judaism can't marry a priest. So is this considered a convert or not? And what made things even more complicated is when it comes to conversion, we are going to be very careful. We do not take this very lightly at all, and we'll often be overly strict, overly machmir, just to be sure. Meaning, we could even demand that the child who is born is immersed in the mikvah, not because they absolutely have to, just l'chumra, just to be careful, just to be certain. It's called gerus l'chumra. Gerut l'chumra. To conversion just to make sure there's no questions later on. Right? And in fact, I know of a case where there's a couple that did not live in the state that they wanted their baby to be converted in, meaning dunked in the mikvah. Why? Because no one knew the truth behind how she conceived. An ultra-Orthodox lady and her husband, they tried for 11 years and couldn't have children. They spent 2 months in Israel. And everyone thought it was of course it was, but it wasn't only that. Everyone thought it was the great miracle nature of Jerusalem and of praying by the Kotel that all of a sudden this lady was able to conceive. But the truth is, they went to this well-known institution in Israel called Machon Puah in Jerusalem. It was a Shifra Puah, right? The Machon Puah, which deals with fertility. And they, in fact, it was done by surrogacy. It was not her egg. But she went through all the signs of pregnancy. So from everyone else's perspective, she got pregnant the normal, natural way. They had no idea. So, and they didn't want to tell anybody. They didn't tell their parents. No one knew except for this husband and wife. Didn't even want to go to a local court. They went to a court in New York City. So really no one would know who they were. And they did this process. When the baby was born, they put the baby in the mikvah just to convert. So these things be very private, and people really don't know. People could really not know these things. You're all like, how was I born? No, just kidding. So if you look like your mother, then chances are you're probably going to share that same DNA. So these are, now what makes, again, as I said before, what's so complicated is, go find me a definitive source that talks about birth mother, talks about egg. So I'm going to first begin in the source in front of you, source number 1, which actually comes from last week's parsha. And I'm going to move quickly because I don't want to spill this topic into next week, because I want to do it next week with a fun Hanukkah topic. So I'm going to try and cover something where in every other campus, I spent almost an hour and a half to 2 hours talking about it, and I'm going to try to do this in like 25 minutes. So be mindful of the clock. I still have 20 minutes. Here we go. Source number 1. Leah was born, and it's, the Torah tells us, V'achar yaldabat, it's okay, V'karashma, V'achar yaldabat, V'tikrat shema Dina, that afterwards a daughter was born, and they called her Dina. Now, that seems to be very innocuous, seems to be just a regular verse in the Torah. But there's something very odd about that pasuk, about that verse. Again, and afterwards, she had a daughter, and they named her Dina. What is strange about the language of that verse? After what? Excellent. You don't start, we know that from grade 4, you don't start a sentence, and after what, right? Hanging out of thin air. What else is strange? This might be a little bit more nuanced. Usually by the birth of all the children of Jacob, of Yaakov, it says, Vatar Vatelet. She became pregnant, she gave birth. Where's the pregnancy? So this leads to a wild interpretation. And when I mean wild, I mean so wild, I call it flying fetuses. Flying fetus. What's a single of fetuses? Fetus is singular and plural? Yeah. Right, flying fetus. Check that. Okay, take a look at this. The Targum Yonatan in source number 2. Targum Yonatan is both a translation and a commentary on the Torah itself. You have an answer for us?
It's fetuses.
It is fetuses. Okay. Flying fetuses. Here we go. You ready for flying fetuses? This is wild. This is not made up. This is a real source. So it's in Aramaic. I'm going to read and translate. Umin basar kedin yilad barat. And afterwards she had a daughter. Ukrayat Shemaya Dina, and they named her Dina. Aruma Mart, she said to herself, Dinu min kadam Hashem, I'm going to make this calculation based on what I know from God, meaning what we'd say based on Ruach HaKodesh, right? Leah is saying this to herself. So Leah is speaking to herself, saying the following. Dehon minei pelug shiftaya, I know that there's going to be a division of the Shvatim. I know they're going to be divided up. I'm going to explain this outside, it'll be faster. The tribes. I know there's going to be 12 tribes. And what's the problem? Leah said, if I have 6 sons, and now if Dina is a male, I'm going to have 7 sons. So if I have 7 sons, the 2 midwives have 2 sons already. 2 plus 2 plus 7 is 11. I know there's only going to be 12. That means Rachel's only going to have 1 son. So Rachel would be on a lower level than the midwives. So Leah prays for her fetus to be a girl, and Rachel's fetus to be a boy.
She knew that Rachel was pregnant.
So she knew Rachel was already pregnant. She prayed to God, and look at these words. Last few words. Third last word on that second line. V'it chalfu ubra. Hemichlivu. They flipped. They switched their ubre, the fetuses. B'meon, in their womb. V'hav hiv Yosef b'me'ad Rachel v'dina b'leah. And Rachel begot Yosef, and now Leah had Dinah. But that wasn't the way it originally was. Wow. That's wild. Now you'd be like, okay, that's wild, but that's just the beginning of why it's so wild.
Okay, wait, I'm confused.
Yes, me too. Yeah. So here we go. There's Leah over here. She's pregnant. There's Rachel over here. She's pregnant. Leah says, I don't want to have a boy now. If I have a boy, I'll have 7 boys. I'm going to have more than my sister. Then my sister will only have 1 boy because she knew there was going to be 12. And therefore the midwives had 2 boys. So if my sister has only 1, she'll be in a lower level than the midwives who have 2. The assumption is the more boys, the higher status you are. I apologize. Right? But that's the way it is when it comes to the tribes. So therefore, she's like, I don't want this to happen. So she prayed to God, and God said, okay. She was going to have Joseph. But God, because of her prayers, did a fetus exchange. And their fetuses exchanged
How do you know the
from one to the other.
Exchanged? Why isn't it just that she always...
I'm just telling you what it says. Right? I'm just telling you what it says. So, yeah.
It can just mean that the gender change.
I'm just telling you what it says. And they switched the fetuses in the womb. You can say whatever you want. I'm just telling you what it says. That's what it says. Now, this might be like, wow, far out. But what gets more complicated is this is actually used as a proof for something. What's this proof? I'm going to explain to you. Source number 4. Source number 4, at the end of Genesis, it lists everyone who went down to Egypt. And in that list it says, Ubenei Shimon, and the sons of Shimon. The names are Yumuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Vitzover. And it ends with a guy called Shaul ben Canaanite. Saul, the sinless Canaanite. Who is Saul? Who's this guy Saul? Like, why it should have been, what do you mean? Shaul ben Canaanite. This is Shaul's kid. It should have said just Shaul, because everyone there are the sons of Shimon. Why does it say Shaul ben Canaanite? Rashi in verse 5 says, I will tell you why. Because this boy didn't come from Shimon. Who did this boy come from? Dinah. In this week's parsha, Dinah is taken captive, and she's raped, and so she got pregnant. And the Rashi says that Dinah was so embarrassed by when she got raped that she didn't want to come back and rejoin her family. Until Shimon agreed to marry her. And Shimon married her, she gave birth to his stepdaughter. Because, stepdaughter. I don't know, whatever that's called. Because Dinah became pregnant through Shem, actually not a daughter at all. Right. Step. I was right, stepdaughter. Stepson, stepson. Sorry, what? What about Asnan?
Wasn't she?
Asnan was Dinah's daughter from Shechem.
Right, this is a son from Shem.
So
She had two?
And then,
Or is it one and then the other?
she wasn't.
I've never.
Maybe one.
Well, I know. I mean,
Yeah,
this
but
is
I only
later.
thought she had those two.
Right.
I don't know that's what it says here.
I mean, it's not is like
Okay, good question.
How could she marry her brother?
Oh! How could you marry your brother? Are you ready for this? Are you holding on to your seats? How could she marry her brother? Answer is it wasn't her brother. Why? Says the Torah in source 6. How could you marry your full sister? It's a full sister. Not a half, it's a full sister because they shared the same mother, same father. Says the Torah, no, it doesn't matter. There's a medrash. And what does the medrash say? Dinah really is from Rachel, so it doesn't matter.
But it's still your half.
It's a half.
Okay.
That's okay. That's crazy. So that leads to everyone going crazy. Crazy. That's like, what is going on here? So here's the problem. This can be used. Does this tell us definitively who really is the mother? Not necessarily. This actually can be used as a proof for either way. Why? Because if you tell me it's the birth mother that defines what a mother is, then you could actually argue that it's about the birth, and therefore it's not a problem when they married each other because... No, sorry. It's a birth mother that matters, but since it's the... Wait a second. Oh, in which case they are full siblings. How then can you justify how they can marry each other? Right? How can they marry each other if it's about the birth? So you're going to say this must justify why it's the egg. Right? The problem with that is, and this is what source number 7 tells us, is that hang on. Oh, and that the Minchad Yitzchak says, wait a second. You mean to tell me that without this midrash, we have no way to justify why they married each other? There's other problems. How could Jacob marry 2 sisters? That's also a problem.
Oh, it was before the Torah.
Right? So that's before the Torah was given. And then he concludes that, listen, you cannot draw halacha from midrash. You can't draw halachic. You can't draw Jewish law from these types of, they're stories, they're important stories, but don't take them necessarily literally, right? You can't take all the midrashim literally. They often contradict each other. So it's very dangerous. So he concludes that you cannot conclude from here who is your mother based on this midrash, and therefore we're back to step 1, who is your mother? And we're left with these two...
So you
Yeah.
don't agree with the Torah.
No, there's the Torah, meaning he agrees with the Torah, and he says, very simple.
Torah.
The Torah, he doesn't agree with the Torah, right. He says, I can agree with the Torah in this midrashic way, but I can't glean from the Torah anything definitive about the definition of motherhood. That's what he says. And so we're left with sources 8 and sources 9. And these are the 2 sources that all the contemporary rabbis have to grapple with. Starting from Rishon ben Orbach to modern day contemporary rabbis. And each one will hopefully try and help us answer this question. We'll see if it does. Source number 8. Here's the statement. Are you ready? Listen very carefully. Shnei achim tu'umim gerim. 2 twin brothers who are converts. V'chein mishucharim. Lo chotziv lo miyabin. V'ein chavim mishum eshet ish. Okay. The truth is that part is not important at all. This is what I care about. 2 converts. Haita horatan shelo b'kedusha. Let's say there's a mother. And when she conceived these twins, she was not Jewish. Then, while pregnant, she converts to Judaism. You follow?
It's the same question.
So, are her kids Jewish? Meaning, When she conceived them, when they were conceived, she wasn't Jewish. When she gave birth, they were Jewish.
Isn't that the case by going into like a specific story? Someone was pregnant, and that isn't someone in Tanakh that it happened to. They accepted the Torah while
Oh yeah. In the story of when you go to war,
yeah.
David and no.
No, but Sheva. That would have, but
Yeah. With Uriah Hittite?
yeah. Because
It was Avshalom and his sister.
yeah. By
They
Avshalom.
slept
Oh, yeah.
together.
Yes.
And then how can you sleep together but then realize he wasn't sibling?
Because she had converted, so like Gershon Iskaya.
Okay, that's going to be, okay. Now, so here we go. That is, so again, source 8 says that two twin brothers, again, who convert, their birth was, okay, fine. Now, says this passage, let's continue reading, Lo chotzin velo miyabim, there's no chalitza, no yibum. I'm going to explain what that means. The question is going to be, what is the relationship with these two brothers to each other? Right? What's the relation to each other? For the mother, we'll get to in a second. What's the relationship to each other? Are they brothers or not brothers? Let me explain to you why we can ask this question. The reason is we have a concept. When a person converts, it's as if they're reborn. And they don't share any family ties with their biological parents. So, meaning, George is born as a non-Jew, and then he converts later in life, and his now name is Shmuel. Shmuel what's Shmuel's relationship to his mother and to his father and to his siblings? So in one way, the Gemara says, Gershon Itgayer Kitino Kanola Dami. It's as if you've been reborn again, as if you are a new child, a new baby. And there's many things that you don't share relationship-wise with your siblings. However, this has major ramifications. Why? I will explain. If these two brothers are brothers, so here's what happens. There's a rule. And this is why this is like an hour and a half discussion, not 15 minutes, but we'll figure it out. Reuven and Shimon are brothers. Each one is married. Unfortunately, tragically, Shimon dies without having kids. Reuven marries Mrs. Shimon. That's called Yibum. The div continuing the lineage of your brother. If they had a kid, if Reuven doesn't want to marry Mrs. Shimon, then you do what's called chalitza, and you reject what's called the Levirate law. So the question is, these two boys who were twins and their mother converted while she was pregnant, do they do Yibum and chalitza? Are they brothers? It says this passage, Lo chotzim v'lo miyabim, no chalitza, no Yibum. That would seem to imply they're not brothers.
That makes no sense.
So it's as if they're not brothers, meaning they're not. That's the first. But then it continues and says, they're not allowed to marry the wife of their sisters. Meaning, if each of them marry two sisters, and then one dies, they can't marry that girl because you can't marry two sisters. And then, that's it. So it appears from here that they're not related to each other. However, if that's true, why they chayav mishum eshet ach? They shouldn't have a problem with eshet ach, the wife of the brother, because they shouldn't be related to each other. There seems to be a contradiction. So this is generally explained in the following way. Forget chalitza and yibum. Those are a technicality. We don't do those things for technical reasons. And in fact, this passage is understood to mean that they are still related to each other. Meaning, what is the point that matters? The point of birth. This is an argument that says that whoever gives birth to you is who you are. Since this lady gave birth to these two boys at the same time, they are both brothers and Jewish, meaning they would not need to convert because when they were born of a Jewish mother. Since they were born of a Jewish mother, they're twins and they are brothers. That is how this passage is understood. But then we seem to have another passage which is very odd. Here's the case. Again, source number 9, also in Yevamot. Here we go. Rava says, Elahadama Rava, Nochri Muberet Shenikaira. Let's say a woman is pregnant and she converts. Bina ain't sarich tefillah. Her son doesn't need conversion. Now, why wouldn't the son need conversion? Because it appears that only when he's born. We learned that before. But let's continue reading. Amai ain't sarich tefillah. Why doesn't this guy need tefillah? Dvar Torah rubo makbir alav chotzeitz, rubo sheno makbir alav eno chotzeitz. Okay, you're not going to. I'm going to explain. When a person goes to a mikvah, when a lady goes to a mikvah, she can't have anything on her body that's going to be a barrier to the water. Right? So that's what women have to prepare before they go to the mikvah. Now, the Gemara here is asking, wait a second, how could a mother go to a mikvah with a baby inside of her? Isn't that baby a barrier to the water? Yes, even though it is inside, it's still a barrier, meaning if a woman leaves, for example, food stuck in her teeth, it's a problem for the mikvah, right? Even if it's inside of you. So the Gemara needs to say, how can this baby who is conceived not Jewish, this baby would be like maybe a barrier to the mother. So the question, maybe she's not really converted then, right? Or let's say if she has converted, maybe she did convert. Well, if we say that she did convert, would the baby then need conversion? So we seem to say the baby does not need conversion. So then the Talmud concludes and says the following. No. Doesn't matter. A woman can go to the mikvah and she could immerse herself in the mikvah, and the baby is not considered, shall we say, a barrier. It is considered just part of her, and therefore the baby is going to be included with the mother. The conclusion seems to imply that why are we bothered about barrier or not barrier? It seems to here to say that we're worried that maybe the definition of what is conceived is the actual Jewish mother. And so we have two sources that seem to contradict themselves. One source says it's about conception, and the other source seems to say it's about birth. And so what makes things super complicated is for the last 40 years, the rabbis have struggled to try and figure out, well, which one is the real source? Which one is more definitive? And which one is the exception? Is it birth? Or is it when they were conceived?
So is it a question of which medrash to not medrash?
No, which source is saying this really is the way it is and this is just a stringency? Right? We're being careful. This is just a technical thing, but this is what matters? Or no, this is what it's actually trying to tell me. And so what makes things so complicated, if you take a look at all the literature for the past 40 years, each one's trying to say, no, this is definitive, that's the exception. This is the exception, that's definitive. This, don't learn from here, learn from here. And everyone goes back and forth, which is why... Question?
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
want to start your thought process.
You sure? Ask.
No, so you're saying it's either between the first source, which is like...
8 or 9. Is it 8 or is it 9?
Oh, it's not talking anything about...
Everyone dismisses the top ones, and so we can't learn anything definitive from them. So here's what we say. Up until, let me see if I remember my names correctly. Many, originally, everyone tried to argue that it's about the birth mother. It's a mother that gives birth, and therefore that defines real motherhood. We might also consider whoever conceives, but not really. That's the way it was until 20 years ago, when Rav Yashiv in Israel And even in North America, you have Rabbi Blech, who's part of based in New York, he works at Yeshiva University. He wanted to kind of argue that's about who conceives. And then, shall we say, because there's been this split, what has now happened is we actually are going to say both and either. What do I mean? And we'll take the stringency of both opinions. Meaning, the egg mother is also your mother, the mother who gives birth to you is also your mother, and the person who brings you up is also your mother. So what they do is now is you will always receive a tefillah l'chumrah. You'll always receive, you'll be dunked. You'll be immersed in the mikvah to be stringent. They won't make a bracha because maybe it's one opinion, maybe it's the other opinion. You don't need to make a bracha, right? Maybe it's a bracha batala, so they don't want to do that. And this way they'll cover both major opinions. And when it comes to kibbud avim, you should really, again, if you don't always know who your biological mother is, right? In many cases, or who the egg, or you might know who gave birth to you, might not know who contributed the egg. Nonetheless, you'd have to, for kibbud avim, you might be obligated, especially because it's a biblical mitzvah, obligated to respect and to honor both of them. And so
you could potentially
you potentially could have 3 mothers, and in theory more if you hold that. I had a very, 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 very close friend of mine. His wife had a very difficult childhood. I don't know exactly what age, but she couldn't live with her. Her father basically abandoned them. Her mother wasn't stable. Jeff and CS had to help her out, and she was basically adopted by 2 major families. One throughout her adolescent life, the second one throughout her teenage life. She's married, Baruch Hashem, and she sees her biological mother every so often. Nothing to do with her biological father. And her adopted mothers that she had over the years, she has tremendous hakaras hatov for what they did to her. They brought her and literally saved her life. Like she would have been, who knows what happened. She's an upstanding citizen. Unless you've known this family for many years, you'd have absolutely no idea that was the case. So really, you could have maybe more than one mother in many different aspects. But again, what's fascinating about, I think, this topic is to show you, and you have to come up with a halachic decision. It's always not so easy. Certain things require a tremendous amount of extrapolating from. And because we're talking about who is your mother, and we're talking about the genealogy of the Jewish people, we're always going to take a very strict rule, because we want to be certain that we're covering ourselves and we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, just in case no one could ask questions later on with all the documentation. So whatever school of thought, and there are people who say, no, it's for sure 100% birth. For sure 100% consent. So today what we'll do is, which we pretty much accepted, is that either way, we'll convert the baby. And the truth is, it gets complicated if this girl falls in love with a Cohen later. That gets more and more complicated, because then it would be you've been strict, but now being strict, you've actually created a burden on this lady. And then maybe there's lenience. Anyways, that's not for now. But let's just say everything is okay. They don't fall in love with a Cohen, then.
So they therefore are.
Therefore, they should not marry a Cohen.
They are a convert.
They are a convert, right? We're going to take the strict approach of everything. So we're going to treat them like a convert, give them a mikveh dunking.
At 13, you have to ask them again.
No, so we don't do that. If they're born that way, essentially, then you don't have to do that. You don't have to
I think that's also for even anyone, like any regular baby that's converted under 3 or something.
Yes, right. Yeah, you don't need to do it again when you're 12 or 13.
Yeah, I don't know. My friend did when she was.
They never made a
like
decision, so it's not like
a baby. And they did
A baby?
She was 3 months.
Uh-huh.
They converted her, and then she did it again when she was 12. She was asked.
Do you want to continue to be? Okay, so maybe they do it. All right, I've been corrected. That could be.
So if this person is sick, what means do you daven for?
That's a good question. So that, I believe, here's the thing: we'll always know the birth mother,
Right.
unless there's an adopted. Right? Adopted will be different, but we'll always know the birth mother because that we're going to have a much clearer record of. Whereas opposed to the egg, person who contributed the egg can be Mrs. X. We'll never know. So that's what we'll do is the birth mother. If it's adopted, then we'll just use the adopted mother.
Oh, really?
What about Shiva?
Yeah, in many cases. Shiva is a great question that requires more analysis. Next
It's not a
semester.
big deal. I mean, it's a big deal.
So I'll be honest. The same person I'm talking about, I'll tell you the truth. Her father died, and she didn't want to say Shiva because she hated her father. Father had nothing to do with him. She wants to Shiva, and she was working, and singing Shiva for a week is a big pain in the neck. Like if you're emotionally upset, so you have to say Shiva, but otherwise you're annoyed that you find out your biological father died because who wants to say Shiva, right?
Like if it distresses you.
So okay, so all right, these are the all right. Well, to be continued next semester. All right, bye everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.